Alright, for this video I wanted to do a quick walkthrough of the Form 1040 Schedule 1, which are additional income and adjustments to income. And this is going to be for the 2023 tax year. Now, Schedule 1 is two parts. So Part 1 is the additional income part, and then page 2 of this Schedule 1 covers those adjustments to income. Now, once you've reported all of the additional income or adjustments, ultimately those values are transferred through to page 1 of your 1040. The additional income is reported on line 8. And then the adjustments to those income items are reported on line 10. Now, I'm not going to go through each line in too much detail. I want to touch on some items that are more common when we see taxpayers filing their 1040s. And a lot of these I do have more in-depth tutorials and examples, and so I'll put all those links below in the description. So for example, if we look to Part 1, additional income to start, line 3, business income or loss from a Schedule C. These are quite common that we see on Form 1040. So Schedule C has to do with profit or loss from a sole proprietorship business. And so in this example, we have Schedule C completed for Adam, who's a real estate agent, and he has a single member disregarded LLC. So he's reported everything in Part 1 and 2 here for his income and expenses. And then ultimately his net profit or loss on line 31 flows through to Schedule 1, line 3, and it's also reported as on Schedule SE for self-employment earnings. Now, I do have a lot of Schedule C examples, so check the description below if you need some tutorials on how to complete that schedule. Moving on, we have the 4797. So this is completed if you have sold property used in your trade or business. So in this example, Adam, as part of his Schedule C business, did sell some property, and so 4797 is included, which reports some ordinary gains. Line 5 is where we would report rental real estate income from Schedule E. Or Schedule E Part 2, we have income flowing through from partnerships, S corporations, or trusts. So in this example, Adam has a flow-through K1 coming through from a partnership, and so that income is reported in Part 2, Schedule E, and then it's ultimately flowing through to Schedule 1 as well. So this is included in his ordinary income. If you have farming income, you would attach a Schedule F and complete that schedule. The net amount flows through to Schedule 1 as well. Unemployment compensation, if you received a 1099-G from the state for the year, you would report those unemployment earnings on line 7. Line 8 is a combination of a number of other income items. So gambling winnings, for example, 8B. Gambling winnings are reported on a gross basis, and then gambling losses are separately reported. I've got some videos covering how to track your sessions and report those gambling winnings and gambling losses separately, so check out the description below as well. COD income, so cancellation of debts. If you received a 1099-C for canceled debt income, you would have to report that income on line 8C. Now, there are ways to get that canceled debt income excluded. You can file a Form 982. I've got some examples as well. I'll put those links below also. So if you received a 1099-C for canceled debt income, you might be able to exclude that from your income if you qualify. Foreign earned income exclusion on the 2555. So if you're a U.S. person and you're an expat living outside the U.S., you might be able to exclude some of your income using 2555. Form 8889, so income from HSAs. So HSAs are health savings accounts. Generally, when you pull money out, you don't have to record it as income if you use the money to pay for medical expenses. However, if you made those withdrawals and didn't pay for medical expenses, you might have an income inclusion. Jury duty pay, right? So that's not reported as wages, right? You're not an employee of the state, so it's jury duty compensation reported on 8H. Some other items that are common here, line items N, O, and P. So line item N, 951A inclusion, that's Subpart F income. So those would be 5471s. If you have a CFC, you might have some Subpart F income. I do have some videos on that as well. 951 Cap A is for guilty, so that's also have to do with CFCs. If you have a guilty inclusion, you might need to report Form 5471 and the related schedules and include an income item on 8O. All right, now lastly, 8Z. This is a new one in the last couple of years. So 1099K reporting. So if you sold personal items on Venmo or Cash App, a lot of these platforms are reporting the transactions on 1099K. PayPal is another one. Now, if you sell a personal item, and particularly if you sell it at a loss, that's not a taxable gain to you, so you don't have to pay tax on it, of course. But the information is reported to the IRS, right? And so you need to report the 1099K items on your return to try to avoid a matching notice. So in this example, let's say that Adam sold like a couch, a used couch for $1,300. Let's say he paid $2,000 for it, so he's got a $700 loss. Well, he still gets a 1099K because PayPal doesn't know that it's not trade or business income, so they send him a 1099K for $1,300 of receipts. Well, he would report that $1,300 there, note that it's 1099K income, personal items sold at a loss, and then even though there's an inclusion in income here, you have an offsetting entry in Part 2 where you would report the 1099K personal item at a loss for the same value. So these two offset each other. But the idea is you are reporting the gross amount here, so the IRS can see that it's going on your return. And then you have the offsetting entry in the adjustment section so that you're not actually paying tax on the sale of your couch, right? You sold some used furniture stuff online, eBay, using PayPal. You got to report the gross amounts, but certainly don't want to pay tax on that income. All right, so if we move on to Part 2, adjustments for income. So educator expenses. So if you are a teacher and you have certain out-of-pocket costs that you spent on the classroom that weren't reimbursed, you can deduct certain educator expenses. Unreimbursed business expenses for reservists, performance artists, fee-based government officials. There is a 2106 form that can be completed. This used to be much broader, so almost any employee that had unreimbursed expenses could claim itemized deductions on the 2106, but then they changed the rules and they modified it to become much more narrow. So now only a handful of different types of professions can claim that. So we don't see that as often anymore. HSA deduction, so if you have a health savings account, you would complete a Form 8889. Contributions to your HSA are generally deductible, so tax deductible, whether you contribute to them outside of your employment or you have an employer-sponsored HSA. So in this example, Adam put $900 into his HSA for the year, and he was able to claim a $900 deduction for those contributions to the HSA. Self-employment taxes on line 15. So Schedule SE, this goes along with the Schedule C for the taxpayer. So net profit from self-employment, subject to ordinary federal income tax, and it's subject to the self-employment tax. So Schedule SE had to be completed for this taxpayer, and he ended up owing $6,482 in taxes, in self-employment taxes, that is. Now, if you are self-employed and you make payments for health insurance, you can generally deduct those health insurance premiums. So in this case, Adam, being a self-employed person, he did make some payments for health insurance, and so he's included the amount on line 17. But before you get to that, you have to do a Form 7206 for the self-employed health insurance deduction. I've got additional videos on that, so check out the links below if you want to learn more how to calculate your self-employed health insurance deduction and then report that amount on the Schedule 1. Penalty on early withdrawal of savings. So if you had certain types of financial products like CDs where you had the money locked up for a number of months but you withdrew it too early, the interest penalty that might have been imposed can often be deducted. So In this case, Adam withdrew money too early on a CD, and he was charged $15 as interest penalty on an early withdrawal, and so he was able to deduct those amount. Also got a lot of videos on 1099 INT, so check those out below if you want to learn more about those types of transactions. Traditional IRA deductions, line 20. So if you are either covered by a retirement plan at work or not, you can generally make some contributions to a traditional IRA and get a tax deduction. If you're not covered by a plan at work, you can generally contribute those amounts and get a full deduction. If you are covered by a retirement plan at work, there are certain phase outs. But in this example, Adam was able to put in $3,500 and take a full deduction for those. If you have any non-deductible contributions, you would have to fill out Form 8606 for non-deductible IRA contributions. And again, I have some other videos on that as well. Student loan interest deduction. So student loan interest, the amount deductible per year is generally capped at $2,500. And the amount that you can deduct also depends on your overall income. So in this example, Adam has, he paid, let's say, $4,000 in student loan interest, and the worksheet will only let you start with a maximum of $2,500 because that's the limit. And then the amount that you can ultimately deduct depends on how much income you have. So in this example, based on Adam's income of the $2,500 cap that he could deduct, the only amount that he could actually deduct was limited to $257. So $257 was his student loan interest deduction. Again, I've got more videos covering the details on how to do those worksheets as well. And then line 24, kind of a catch-all for any other adjustments, right? So if you've got some of these really unique items, frankly, we don't see them too often, but reforestation, amortization, and expenses, certain types of pension plans, if you have some attorney fees and court costs because you're litigating an unlawful discrimination claim case. All right, so you can see here there's quite a few unique ones, not too common that we see in practice, but always, good idea to read the form instructions and check your individual circumstances, see whether or not they apply. And then at the very end, we already touched on this, but we've got the offsetting entry for those personal items, the couch that he sold at a loss. So the $1,300 was included in income above, and then there's an offsetting entry of $1,300, so that nets out on the adjustment to income side. And I do have quite a few videos covering this issue. They're still trying to change the 1099K threshold in Congress, so that's still left to be seen. All right, so that covers it for this walkthrough. I hope that was helpful. Again, be sure to check out the description for all the various links to other videos I've got covering some of these items. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thanks.